Thank you so much, Laure. Hello, ladies, gentlemen, and everybody else. I'm Quickshot, he's Dagda, and I'm hoping for a bloodbath between these two teams. But the truth is, I don't really know what to expect because Vitality didn't exactly deliver last week. And yesterday, SK, while they won the series, it wasn't the most confident. So who are the favorites?
Yeah, look, personally, I think people are sleeping on SK a little bit. I think SK, despite how they looked yesterday, is a bit uncharacteristic, but I think their bot lane smashed Vitality the last time they came up against each other.
SK are going to win.
I'm saying SK are there.
Give me a quick second. I've got Vitality fans here. What do you think about that? There are a lot of Vitality fans in the audience, and we're just about to jump into draft. And I'm hoping the songs and the cheers continue throughout absolutely everything. They are going ballistic.
I feel like I made a few enemies with this one, to be honest. But
flesh out for me. Why do you think SK come into the series with a little bit of a potential upside?
Yeah, I think a lot of it has to do with the draft. I think it's going to be really important to see how this red side draft does go with champions like Elise, with the Ashe. I feel like when you look at the bot side for SK, they just have a bit more flexibility.
Right, now can they deliver? That is the question, because both of these teams are on the verge of elimination. Team Vitality will be starting on the blue side today with SK Gaming on the red side. So let's look at some of the champions. Expectations in draft, and who do you think will be targeted? I know that bottom lane is going to be a heavy priority.
Yeah, I think the big problem for me when I look across the Vitality is when you're over on the red side, I feel like Elise and Ashe have to be banned away. I think both these guys are going to be incredibly strong in it. I feel like Vitality have to always ban Caitlyn in this series regardless of what side they're on. So I think it just opens up opportunities for SK to be a little bit more flexible. We've seen Karma banned away against Vitality every single time because that's kind of a fix-all for the bottom side for Neon and Kaiser. So now you look at the Elise, now you look at the Ashe as well, and suddenly SK still have options like the Lucian Nami that they can play in bot line, the Zeri Lulu that they can go for as well, and even things like Irrelevance Jax are still going to be left up on the cards as well.
I mean, let's get this bot lane focus as well as the Ashe banned away. Lucian is removed from the pool. And now that Zeri is the one I'm looking at. Don't forget for the fact that Neon has also played 2 Sivir games. He's got that Xayah under his belt throughout the course of the Winter Split. And for SK, what will be this final ban? Maokai still open and available?
Elise. I think it should be the Elise here, and then chances are Photon will just take the Maokai off rip here. But actually going to be the Jace, okay? So maybe thinking, hey, look, at least we can get our hands on something here, but the Elise is going to be taken, and then I imagine you go over towards the Maokai yourself just to try and set up for still matching the AP jungler in mid, and then giving yourselves opportunity to look for these big team fights in the later stages.
Maokai's going to be an interesting one for me throughout the course of this best of 3 because Bo doesn't have any games on it this winter. And while he has played a few of them in other regions, it's definitely not the likes of that Kindred, the Graves, the carry-style champions. So Exakick will be locking in that Zeri. We'll be able to complement it with one of those enchanters. But I think for Exakick and DOS, these are the 2 players that truly have impressed this winter.
And I think we even got a bit of a call out there for the bot lane on Neon as well, saying, look, you're going to go towards the Varus, right? We've already read you, and I think it's a good call. Zeri, you're going to have the Lulu paired with it. Exakick and DOS look fantastic on it, and especially when you look at like the Ashe, the Lucian, the Caitlyn taken off the boards as well. I think you just set up Exakick now to be your big late game carry. And now with the Sylas in the mid lane, I'm a little bit more surprised at this. I thought we'd end up with something where you can go AD in the mid lane for Perkz, but with the Jace banned away, you're still setting up for an incredibly strong 2v2 that you can look to play through, and I think that's probably the secret sauce for Vitality if they hope to beat SK.
The thing that I'm very intrigued by is how Sertuss will be able to match up and try to contain Perkz. I think this is one of the lanes or one of the specific player matchups that can have a big influence.
And I think especially when you look at how Koi played against Sertuss as well, Larson taking over in the lane, using that influence then to move around the map, it was a big factor in why SK weren't able to get the ball rolling in game 1 versus Koi. And I think that's where we're probably going to be looking at Bo and Perkz with this Elise, with this early aggressive play around Sylas being able to follow up to try and make Sertuss uncomfortable again and do exactly what Larson did in that first game as well.
And Perkz is already ecstatic with the potential abilities that he can steal away with the fact that the Lulu, the Maokai, as well as that Zeri are locked in. In phase 2 of the draft, Cassiopeia finds himself in the ban pool. Definitely a champion that is rising in priority here during the course of our group stage. While another support pick, another bot laner is banned away, Kaiser's Nautilus, and now the final one will be Olaf as well.
Okay, so this says to me that you're probably looking at K'Sante for the top side. Photon's already played the Olaf in the top lane, so I imagine going for that K'Sante is where Relevant is thinking. Could also just default to something like a Nair as well, which does struggle against the Olaf, but I think your options here are still fairly open for what you want to do on that top side. I imagine though we're going to look at like a Ryze or something along these lines for Sertuss in this mid lane, even the Azir still being left open. Just kind of go, hey look, I just want to push and not interact with you, and as long as I can keep Perkz in check, it becomes a lot easier for Markoon to kind of do his thing on the map without having Bo and Perkz getting in his face.
I mean, when we look at this winter, Sertuss has also got the Talia played under his belt, something that can have the ability to move around the map and have that influence. But just as a sort of play style or champion pool, Sertuss has got a wide variety. His top 5, top 10 have got those control mages, he's got those assassins in the pool, and it will be Sertuss saving last pick into whatever the draft is. It'll be Jack's top.
And I think just hitting on wider champion pools, I think Irrelevant has done a really good job of widening his as well. Has been very strong on that top side, playing that weak side. The Jax has been something that has been consistently banned against him in the top lane, and now he's got his hands on it. You're going to have to see if Photon on this Gangplank can have an answer to it. I think SK struggled a little bit the last time we saw the Jax there for Irrelevant, as they do rely on him to be that tanky frontline engaged style, but certainly this now gives Markoon options to try and play around that top side if Exakick and DOS are just able to get control against Neon and Kaiser anyway.
And in terms of like comfort and experience, this is Photon's 3rd ever game on Gangplank. Both of his 2 previous attempts are losses, and Kaiser will find himself piloting Alistar. So zoom out a little bit. What do you think of this team composition? It's a slightly different look to most of what we've been seeing here in Winter.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised by Neon and Kaiser going for the Alistar in this bot side. You're kind of counterpicking yourself. One of the things Lulu can do is whimsy you as the Alistar as you go in, and you end up just headbutting the AD carry to safety. So I think the big one here is trying to get more presence from Bo down towards this bottom side once more, especially on the Elise. You have that early game pressure, and it looks like with Sertuss going for the Cassiopeia here, everything on Vitality wants to get into your face. Very, very short range composition. So Sertuss opting in towards the Cassiopeia. It's a great matchup against the Sylas, and as well gives you that peel that you really want for people like Exakick in this comp.
A lot of zone control as well when you consider the Maokai, the Cassiopeia, long range, relatively safe engage tools from the side of SK Gaming. But for Team Vitality, you really have to go all in. When you look at how they initiate those potential team fights, there's no super strong front line in that regard. Cannon Barrage or Chain of Corruption or bust.
Yeah, I think that's the combo, right? Is Cannon Barrage into allowing Alistar to close the distance to get that set up, and then Alistar with the Unbreakable Will becomes your front line. But I think you've got loads of tools here on SK to try and answer for that, with both the mid and jungle providing great peel tools, great opportunities for the Zeri to try and kite away. You've got good setup with the Lulu as well, that makes it very difficult for Vitality to play. So Vitality kind of need to get the ball rolling early and play for side lanes.
If SK play like they did yesterday during the laning phase, and they do not shore up some of those weaknesses, this could get scary very fast, because the combination of Elise plus Sylas, Elise plus GP can be devastating. Those Vitality fans are here looking to fight Vitality go to playoffs.
And it has to be on Bo, it has to be on Perkz. They need to disrupt Markoon in the same way we saw yesterday from Heretics, but it's a tall order. SK beat them in regular season. We'll have to see if now Vitality will get the revenge.
Waiting to finally hit the rift here for the final day of group stage. Team Vitality and SK Gaming, do or die. Let's load up. As we do once again find ourselves on a Summoner's Rift. I really, really like the focus that we talked about during the draft in terms of Bo, managing to have an impact, managing to get either Photon or Perkz ahead. And I think once we do get to those later stages, the skirmishes and the team fights, when I look at the combination that SK have put together, I just see a simpler to execute draft, and that does give me a little bit of nerves.
Yeah, I think for SK, the big one for me is now starting to shift their focus a little bit more towards these early game objectives. When you actually look at SK, they haven't been highly focused on Rift Heralds or even Dragons. They're the lowest Rift Herald and Dragon percentage when you look at teams in groups at the moment. So I really want to see them with this composition use the fact you should have pushed in mid. You've got great team fighting when you hit that level 6 to try and force objective fights in these stages where you can actually start to then draw Vitality into these Dragons, because one of the big weaknesses, and well, I won't say weaknesses, I think it's been a bit coin flippy honestly for Vitality, is they're willing to give up early objectives so they can play for towers and play for advantages elsewhere. So if SK aren't really putting that restraint on them, putting that timer on them by forcing early Dragons, Vitality will be happy to just play out the map.
And of course give that Gangplank as well as that Sylas time to scale, time to pick up all the gold and items they're looking for. Little tidbit, this is the first time ever in the LEC that Vitality and SK have actually met in a best of series. And I mentioned it a moment ago that for SK Gaming yesterday, their early game was a struggle. They played Heretics, they were down 1,300 gold on average at that 14-minute mark. And against this composition, I want to see them improve on that. I want to see them avoid those early mistakes. Exakick and DOS pushing on the bottom lane, Sertuss pushing the middle. Actually, all 3 lanes for SK currently shoving into Vitality.
And I think this is a better solution for SK. When you touched on the goal difference we saw yesterday, I think a huge problem that we've seen for SK is they haven't been able to execute their game plan when it came into the best ofs. But Bo is hovering up towards this top side and maybe looking for Relevant already. He's spot on a ward.
He's got that flash available to him. Bo's going to try to thread the needle if he can. Starts to apply that red buff and chipping away. Minions now turning to help out. Cocoon connects. Venomous Bite as well. Counter-Strike available. Will land the stun. Bo goes forward. Leap Strike out. Irrelevant backed up by the army of minions. Now flashes. Photon's looking for the parlay. The long-range engage from Markoon. Ends up being a trade. It's 1-for-1 as the sapling is tossed into the bush. Mid lane Sertuss is already starting to roam. And those minions are still pushing towards the tower. Photon, the focus of Markoon, another sapling thrown out. Balkeg is put down and Photon starts to burn. And it looks like Markoon may just have enough damage. Goes forward once again. 2 kills to SK.
I mean, nice start for SK. The fact that you actually get Markoon pathing top here to help Irrelevant shows a very different style. Engage on bot side though, as Exakick will just hop over the wall. But one of the things is, every time we've seen Markoon on red side, pretty much in groups, he is started on bot top side, cleared his entire top side camps, and immediately gone to bot. So I think Vitality getting caught out a little bit by the fact that Markoon was there. Bo trying to help out Photon, play for his top side, and ends up giving over 2 kills now to SK.
One to Irrelevant, as well as one to Markoon. And this one started out pretty strongly. That ward just timed out as Bo stood onto it. But you have to expect that. You have to anticipate that.
I love what Irrelevant does here, though. He just plays in the minion wave. Like, that's a huge minion wave. And you can see Bo trying to stay in ranged for him so he can just keep chipping at him with the red buff, buying time for the Maokai to get up here. And Photon can't really do very much. You're level 2, you start a barrel, you don't really have a huge amount of damage to try and bring in here. So Irrelevant tries to get that last little bit of damage. Would have given him the level up as well, or sorry, the extra little bit of health there if he'd managed it. But Markoon just follows Photon the whole time, trying to see if he can buy time for the TP in, but not able to do so. Bo back in top side though.
Right, no flashes available for anyone involved. Steps forward and the Cocoon goes wide. No connection. Once again, if you look at the minimap, Sertuss was making his way up top. Had that dive continued, Sertuss is already looking to respond, looking to react to the moves. And a very clear game plan here from Bo. Try to get this Gangplank ahead. 2 ganks already at 5 minutes.
The thing is, though, if you continue to focus on this top side, look, obviously 2 carries top lane, they're going to be super happy with it. But you also have to be aware, bot side, starting to win out in favor of Exakick and DOS, right? They have the range advantage and they're still trying to use it. Kaiser trying to engage.
There's a lot of damage coming out as all of a sudden Kaiser now is running for his life. Exakick able to turn that around. Both of SK's bot lane is around 50% HP, no consumables available to them, and Kaiser is playing very aggressive, very forward, not allowing any of that double-ranged duo to get chip damage or to maintain control of the lane.
And I like that he's gone for the Glacial Augment in this lane. It means that you can get the slow, set yourself up, but it also gives you access to the Hextech Flash. So even if Kaiser wants to burn Flash, get the Flash gone on DOS, you can set up for the repeat play on boss.
Well, we're trying to take the bait. I'm trying to set up a bait play. Photon was backed up by Bo, still standing in the bushes. Drops the power to kick down. Markoon here as well. No teleport available for Sertuss. Looking to find the chain, gets it. DOS is making his way to this top lane as well. And Irrelevant has hit level 6 ahead of Photon. Markoon's going forward. Oh, there's everybody getting involved. The leap strike forward, counter strike. Not going to be enough damage just yet. And the pulverize sets up Bo to take down Irrelevant. Now the next target is Markoon, and DOS will not be able to save him. 2 quick kills to Vitality.
I mean, there's so many roams going on here. Junglers are top, supports are top, but Vitality are the ones that end up coming out on top. You get the engage coming through from SK, and Vitality turn it beautifully.
I mean, what an interesting start to this game. 6 minutes in, and everybody is getting involved in that top lane. We haven't seen anything else from the rest of the game because Bo and Markoon are just trying as their will to get their top laners ahead.
Do you know how refreshing this is, though? When everything's been about bot lane, this game's all about top side right now, and it's a really nice job from Photon, right? Plays this incredibly slow, waits for the moment when Irrelevant goes in. Bo has so much damage early that as long as Bo is here to match against Markoon, they're going to be able to come out on top. The fact that Kaiser's here as well, just the icing on the cake to provide that CC to set up the double kill for Bo.
Really nicely done. And as soon as we jump into it, I want to take a quick second to talk about Photon unless there is an engage in this bottom lane. Looks like we will be good. I mean, Photon is one of the unsung heroes of Vitality. If you take a look at some of his stats at the bottom in terms of kill participation, kill percentage, damage per minute, he leads the league for his role in all of those. He's second in his role for goal percentage, forward percentage, isolated time. He's one of the players that has just had an impact and had a significant performance all winter long. But you don't necessarily talk about it as much because of every other player on the squad.
And I think the big thing is because it's been so much of a bot lane focused meta, looking towards people like, you know, Neon and Kaiser haven't been doing so hot, he does have to try and carry, but...
Chain of Corruption onto Markoon, and will get chunked down. 3 members of Vitality on the jungle side of SK, but Sertuss hasn't been able to make his way down just yet. And an easy kill, they get the dragon as well.
And this is why I want to see the Elise banned. Elise is so good at controlling the early state of the game, and it's been where SK have struggled the most. We saw them yesterday against Heretics, really not getting their footing underneath them in the early stages. They did bring it back in the mid game, but against a team like Vitality, I think they're going to have a much harder time trying to bring this game back, especially when you start to look at the ability for Perkz to play in a side lane, Photon to play in a side lane, and try and punish SK before they can really get to that big team fight.
Well, right now, it's a 1,000 gold lead here for Vitality. Neon's left alone underneath the turret. 3 seconds, 2 seconds before the teleport is available for Photon. Hit goes in, surges up and just donates that kill with the help of the tower, as well as that cannon barrage. Easy reply back from Neon, and Bo is once again going top. But here comes Markoon, thrown out the ulti, double root, but there's no damage. An easy kill once again.
I mean, 3 kills now for Bo. He is popping off in the top lane. Sertuss is too late to the roam. Photon should be able to crash this wave, and he'll back away. You're getting the kills on bot side. SK failed dive again like we saw yesterday.
I mean, that dive just looked horrendous as Photon is forced to flash into his jungle. Bo starts taking Twin Fang after Twin Fang, but there's support, there's resources, there's backup here from Vitality. They build up another 1,000 gold. It's 2k up before 10 minutes.
And a lot of that is on this jungler, right? So now Bo gets to have those opportunities to not only just play an advantage that you have as Elise, but you've got nearly 1,000 gold under your back pocket, and Sertuss is in trouble.
Oh, hijacks away, a petrifying gaze. Neither team able to find that stun. And Sertuss will now continue to slither to safety. Look, this has been a chaotic start to the game, and once again, another fight being set up in the top lane. I want to ask you, if this is obviously going to be playing here into Vitality's favor, how do they extend past this try to kill Irrelevant 100 times?
I mean, the big one is trying to use this Rift Tail to take down some of these side lane plates, and then you actually get opportunities to push inside with Photon, with Perkz. But I think you've got to be careful, because a lot of the times with Kaiser, roaming, Exakick and DOS are actually getting plates on that bot side and starting to kind of even up the fact that even though you've got 2 kills onto the Varus, you've actually got a massive CX lead for Exakick and DOS to play through.
Yeah, that advantage already at 12 CS, but because of the kills, it's a benefit here to Neon. Photon will be pushing this lane. Markoon's still waiting in the wings. DOS is also roaming to this top lane. So Photon this time round maybe at a numbers disadvantage. Markoon still standing around. You've got to consider the opportunity cost. They're looking to set themselves up an easy kill as the Wild Growth is thrown down and Photon is just chain CC'd to death.
But look at the bot side. You're getting completely pushed away. We're going in as Kaiser.
Kaiser! Exakick is trying to survive, but Bo finds the 4th of the game. Those tower plates you talked about starting to be balanced out.
And you've also got the Rift Herald here, so Vitality just get to take this bot lane turret if they want to. TP back from Perkz, the top side. I think Irrelevant wasn't expecting that, but I mean, this is Vitality now getting your win on top side and now rotating that to the bot lane as well.
This is a very intense pace that is being kept up. From the next minion wave, conga lining its way forward. The tower will be secured. All of the plates as well as that gold. It's 1,000 in the lead for Neon.
I mean, this is a really big win for Vitality because they kind of conditioned SK to continuously go towards that top side. The fact that Vitality end up showing up on bot side, catches Exakick going well. Great flash predict from Kaiser as well to get the headbutt back out from underneath the tower. And I mean, Bo, we already talked about it. I mean, Mythic completed. He has so much damage on this Elise with that Night Harvester.
I mean, gigantic lead already. And I think in particular for Neon and Kaiser, I'm very happy to see how well they have played this game out. They were gifted a kill from Exakick, but in terms of the individual players, statistically, throughout the course of this season, it has looked like Exakick has had higher highs, and when they actually met during the regular season, it was a gigantic advantage to Exakick.
And I mean, that was kind of where SK were able to get their win. The fact that they were able to shut down Neon, provide Exakick with the resources, and then win out through the team fights. That's not what's happening this time around. Vitality are controlling the early stages of the game, and they're getting to play out how they like it. They're going on towards the top lane turret now. They can fall back for the dragon that's in 20 seconds as well if they'd like to, but this kind of Vitality way, screw the dragons, we want towers, we want gold.
I mean, the benefit here, Dagda, is they actually got that first dragon. They've also got the towers, so they've so far taken every major objective that you would want to throughout the course of the game. The second dragon is up, just like you said, in 10 seconds. And the thing for Vitality is they cannot afford to make any mistakes in the mid-game. The reason for that? SK are able to punish, and yesterday, that was how SK actually picked up the series win against Heretics. I don't think they were quite as far behind throughout the course of their games, but they've got that resolute, mental state. They don't give up, and with the champions they have, they can turn fights around.
And that's where I think looking at Markoon now to try and use where the Maokai is now stronger is in these team fights. Exakick, unfortunately, doesn't have his Mythic completed, though. That would have been fantastic to try and have set up right now because it might have given you a little bit of an edge. But when you look at everyone on Vitality, the first item is completed, and they want to try and contest.
Cannon Barrage is available for Photon. He's sitting just south of the river now, joining his team. Perkz, no TP, no ultimate. He's trying to follow Irrelevant down, but the Nature's Grant fired out, and Kaiser's the one that tanks it. Irrelevant may not engage just yet. Here comes Perkz from the mid lane, and the AoE is simply too much. Piercing arrow bursting out. Members of SK, and they're running for their lives. Counter-Strike will find a stun for now, and Irrelevant flashes to safety, but while they get the dragon, they may not be able to hold the tower. Wave clear is fired out there from Exakick, and with the minions cleared, it does survive for now.
The conga line is coming though. Next wave is here, and everyone on SK has to reset. So this is going to be mid lane tower giving up. Even the TP to topside here for Sertuss to try and match something for SK on the map.
I mean, the amount of damage that came out from Neon's Varus, burning through the HP bars of SK, they simply could not stand and fight because they were melted before it began.
And I think this is where you can see how SK, if they want to try and close the gap, they don't actually have a huge amount of tools. It's just Markoon, right? So in a situation where Vitality can kite back with barrows, with poke, they're in an okay shape. It's about trying to turn around Vitality overstepping.
Well, Vitality are the ones with 2 towers to their name, a 5,000 gold lead. And the fact that that second dragon was secured by SK will at least delay the potential soul. And now, with the map being a little bit more open, SK are trying to get at least one of these towers down to balance it out with that standing gold.
And also just get control over topside. Rift Herald is about to spawn in 30 seconds. They want to try and push in top wave so they can drift with Markoon now into river to get vision. But Vitality, they're already here. They're ready for the play.
They are indeed. Markoon will just about escape the chains from Perkz. He's hit level 11. He's down a minor amount of CS hit from Sertuss, and I think these mid laners are now going to start to be significantly more impactful. But I think a lot of pressure on Sertuss on this Cassio. He has to put a bunch of damage out, use the miasma to limit some of the tools for Vitality to move forward, but the margin for error is so slim with the gold deficit they find themselves in, and it just feels like SK have been playing purely defensive this entire game.
And the thing is, with SK not having vision, it becomes very hard for them to actually contest this, right? Because they're coming in from multiple different angles. Look where Zeri is. You can't really get this, Markoon. Maybe hoping for a Miracle Steal with the sapling, but I mean, there's no way that Vitality are going to give this one up.
Both top laners have teleport available. It will be secured here. The Rift Herald drops, and SK fishing, maybe looking for an opportunistic kill. That ward that was placed earlier will at least spot Perkz out, and the Nature's Grasp is a defensive one there, as it was hijacked. So easy secure on that second Rift Herald. And you can see SK waiting for a mistake, waiting for someone to be out of position, because they can't actually start it or go toe-to-toe.
But the waiting is the problem, right? Yeah. Like, you could have cross-mapped there. You could have gone, hey, you know, that's a nice juicy Gangplank on the bot side. Maybe we could have made a play there, but instead, they invest all the resources to top side. They get nothing out of it. Gangplank gets the farm. You get another hero going over towards Vitality, and they're immediately going to go top side. They want to try and get this last outer turret down. Bo will be spot on that ward, though, and Sertuss will immediately back away.
Okay, in terms of what you understand and have watched from SK all winter long, this deficit, this game, feels like a significantly harder task to come back from. But if they were to do it, how and where?
So one of the things that SK have started to do, which is something that like G2 and Koi have done a lot, is they'll just overload one side of the map, which is actually what you're seeing them do right now, to try and catch someone who's overextended, and it looks like Perkz is going to be that call, and might actually get him here, to be honest. Good pickup of the ultimate here in the Cassiopeia, might give him a chance to walk away from this though.
While this is happening, the rest of Vitality were grouping up towards the mid and bottom lane, starting to place those wards down. We're a minute until the next dragon spawns. So just like you were highlighting, Dagda, from SK's side, when there are the options or the ability to cross-map, they weren't necessarily taking advantage of them. Vitality absolutely are. And they've made it very clear. They want to set up, they want to challenge, and they want this next dragon. Yeah,
I think your best bet is to actually like try and move up into this top end of the map, so you can make sure that there is a trade for the dragon. I don't think SK can really fight for this. You can even see Irrelevant just being completely pushed off of this bot tier 2. But if that's going to be the case, don't even fight for the dragon. Just try and push in this mid wave, which they're doing right now, and immediately collapse onto Sertuss in the top lane. Try and see if you can get 2 of these towers for yourself, or at least get something back, because you can see with the amount of vision Vitality have, it's nigh impossible for SK to contest. Sertuss even needs to reset with no mana before he can try and go for this fight.
Trying to shove that wave so much. His teleport just became available, while Perkz used that to that mid lane tower. He's picked up the Zhonya's Hourglass. Medic was talking so much about that Roa level up timing and whether or not you can get it from 15 to 16. Level 12 on Perkz. The dragon has just spawned, and no one from SK can really stand toe-to-toe. We'll be here just a little bit late, I feel. And where is Markoon? He's going north towards that Baron Pit area. And again, SK will concede this one. Down 6,000 gold, 20 minutes into the game. And it is all Vitality thus far.
But again, what you really needed to be doing here was actually moving into this top side to try and get some vision set up, so then you can contest Baron with vision here and here. But the fact that, again, SK are kind of slow off the mark is meaning that they're not actually getting this cross-map play, getting anything back, so they can try and fight against SK and play around their vision. Exakick just taking poke as well means that he's going to have to back away, and Vitality just move from boss into top, continue to take over the map, and make it so difficult for SK to play.
I mean, spare a brief thought for the players on SK when you consider that this game has been absolutely breakneck pace. SK as an org has only played in 5 best of series since the LEC started, and I think the individual players, you have to respond. You have to figure out what's the game plan, what's the comms, how do we counter the punches that Vitality are throwing.
I mean, it's hard to when you're against a man like that on your screen, Perkz, right? If you add up the entire career of SK, every single player across the board, the tenure they have in LEC only adds up to half the tenure that Perkz has had in the LEC. This is a very new team, and Perkz is putting them in their place right now.
And all that chaos is also impacting the decision-making. SK will lose yet another tower. That's the 4th one that has been taken from Vitality's side. They'll be able to advance that vision line a little bit into the red side jungle of SK. Remember that every single time Vitality are left unattended. I do appreciate how they are setting up their next few minutes of gameplay by pushing that ward line forward.
But what I'd like you to do is draw a circle around any vision that you see on this that is blue.
Yeah.
Because like it's just everywhere. Whereas when you look at red, it's very, very defensive. It's all stuck right in here. There's very few areas that can actually go and try and contest anything that's far forward. And it just sets up very well for Vitality to continue putting the pressure on and making sure that SK can't look for good ultimates from Sertuss, set up for good appeal for Zeri. It's so hard for them to try and push forward right now, and Vitality are playing this perfectly.
Okay, so for Vitality then, how do they continue this lead? And do you have high confidence that they can execute the team fights? It is still a 7,000 gold lead, but there are nuances to some of these 5v5s in the objective pits, and if a Petrifying Gaze, if that Nature's Grasp can be used in advantageous manner, there is still a lot of damage for SK to follow up, but they cannot obviously get caught themselves.
I think when you look at SK, it's about getting to a third item, right? I think if you can get around... Ooh, hang on, Perkz.
Take a look here. Running Spark thrown out from Exakick, instantly replied from Perkz, over the wall from Kaiser. Cocoon lands onto Sertuss. Now he's caught underneath that cannon barrage. And the Nature's Grasp used defensively, trying to find picks. But look at all of the ultimates blown, as well as the cleanse and flash from Exakick.
I mean, but look across at Vitality, every ultimate is down. Multiple flashes are burnt as well. They are just as hurt. SK now need to get into this pit. Can Markoon with flash make a miracle steal?
Find out is all of a sudden irrelevant, and Perkz going toe-to-toe. Perkz TP back into that tri-bush and flash defensively. Powder kick into the arrows, and Perkz chaining this forward. Neon will be able to secure the kill. The rest of SK are running for their lives. They use that Baron as bait and get another kill.
And again, Vitality just playing this well, making sure that SK are running into them blind so they can try and set up for good barrel chains, Neon with arrows. But even without the ultimates, you can see just how devastating Vitality are in this one. Vitality needed to get off to a good start, and they have absolutely destroyed SK's early game.
And it also creates interesting questions for the rest of the series. That top lane focus, the repeated ganks over and over and over, not something we've seen too much of in the course of the regular season. You can just see the amount of damage coming back. Unless SK jump in and find that kill, they cannot stand face to face.
I think you really need to get rid of this Elise for next game. I think a huge amount of the problems that we're seeing for SK is the fact that Markoon can't match up to the early game strength. Vitality got control over top side, and even the early leads meant nothing in bot.
Not at all, and Sertuss just using again that miasma to prevent any further engage. It's nearing that 10,000 gold limit, 2-3 items being secured on the side of Vitality, and 40 seconds until the next dragon is up. That vision line, once again, being set up before the dragon is started, before SK can get into a position to, push that mid lane or find any sort of priority. And the fact that Neon on this Varus is finding so much poke damage, hell, SK can't even get in range to fight.
And they're not going to. It looks like SK are just going to go, hey, look, we can't fight this. We're just going to cross map, see if we can go for this top tier 2. But the problem is Vitality don't actually have to fully commit to Dragon right now. Because Neon's got this poke Varus, he clears out mid-wave incredibly easily. They can then just send someone like Perkz even down to this bot side to take up a Photon now.
Well, a lot of invested. Cannon Barrage comes out and Photon will be killed. Sertuss picks up the first of the game. And in a 5 versus 4, where do SK make their next move? They still have to be very, very cautious. A lot of long-range damage. And CC can come out. They started off the Baron. It's down to 7,000. Chain of Corruption starts to spread as the hail of arrows continues to chip away. Nature's Grasp thrown out from Markoon. He's inside the pit, but they're chipping away. It's like shooting fish in a barrel. As Vitality have forced the majority of the team out, and now Vitality are in the pit. The lightning crash comes down, and that goes golden, as all of a sudden Perkz will not be stolen. It's stolen! Bo gets the Baron! Sertuss is trying to use those fangs on Kaiser, while Perkz is taken out by Exakick. That is a lot of gold secured, but the Baron taken away by Vitality.
The only person who still has it though is Neon. Photon was still dead, so Neon, the sole Baron carrier, as SK now can push mid and move down towards the dragon, net themselves a second one of the game. So yes, the steal was nice, but giving all those kills to SK is a big win for the SK side.
The thing is it going to be enough? Because SK are still significantly behind, and they are relying on Vitality to either overcommit, be a little bit out of position, because frankly speaking, they just cannot stand, you know, in a straight up head-to-head.
I think the big one is when they complete the third item, but we'll have a look at this fight here. So one man down already. You look at where Kaiser was positioned here for when Markoon threw out the ultimate, it positioned really well to block Perkz, but Exakick once more stepping up massively for the team. A huge amount of damage in the pit, gets on towards Perkz. Irrelevant and Sertuss are doing a ton of damage on towards the Alistar, and yes, Neon is doing well in this game, but unfortunately he just doesn't have that consistent damage from this poke Varus to go against someone like a Jax and a Cassiopeia.
They find the kills, they find the dragon. SK find another tower, and with only one member of Vitality still standing with that Baron buff, they're going to apply pressure in the top lane. Use that poke damage to chip away the members of SK, and Irrelevant with teleport available, level 15 under his belt, shoves the wave all the way to the inner turret. I will say that I do feel a little nervous here for Vitality. They haven't had the cleanest mid to late games throughout the course of Winter, and SK have demonstrated they can win from behind. The damage is being put down as Sertuss steps forward. The petrifying gaze starts up Neon, and he's taken down. Kaiser will look to be the next target and finds a 4-man pulverize, preventing the further chase. The tower stands, the kill's secured, and SK are clawing back this deficit.
Vitality overstayed. They felt like they needed to force because Irrelevant was wailing away in that bot side turret, but now want to try and pick off someone, but SK aren't giving them that opportunity. Exakick, as I say, is...
Oh, the engage from Perkz, and we'll at least get the flash from Exakick. He held on to that lightning crash. It's also level 16. The thing for Vitality, because they don't have that traditional tank or that traditional engage tool, they do have to be creative in how they force. They do have to look for those picks. And in that top lane tower engage, they were pushed back.
Well, you can see the combo for their engage, right? It's supposed to be Kaiser who sets it up, but the fact that he actually knocks Sertuss slightly away from the pulverize means that Sertuss stays up, Markoon dodges with the twisted advance, and then they're just able to follow through. Perkz was completely on the wrong side of the fight as well, trying to see if he could flank behind, but it's mistakes across the board, and there was no reason for Vitality to try and overstep. You had the poke from Photon, from Neon, but because they had no one matching Irrelevant in the bot side, they felt that pressure to try and make the play work.
3 items have been secured now for multiple members of SK. That gold difference down to 5,000, and when you get to the 30-minute mark, the majority of it is on Bo's Elise. So that's not going to have the most significant impact unless he's able to assassinate one player.
And this is where it becomes incredibly difficult for Vitality to try and assassinate anyone on SK side, because you look at Zhonya's on Irrelevant, Sertuss, you're going to have the safety net for Exakick in DOS as well. It's so hard for Vitality to now play out these fights because we've now hit that 3-item threshold, not even just withstanding the fact that Exakick has that Infinity Edge and is now pumping out damage.
Right now, SK Gaming waiting for the next objective. The fact that they're able to pick up those 2 dragons could be particularly valuable. There's 3 members of Vitality looking for Irrelevant. Gets caught by the cocoon, knocked up into the air. Buys a few extra seconds with the hourglass. Nature's Golf goes forward, and Irrelevant survives. He flashes to safety. Now Bo is the next target. He's being bursted down by Exakick. Perkz is now stepping forward. He's hijacked the Nature's Grasp. Will be able to at least force SK back. Get themselves that flash from Irrelevant.
The problem was, though, Vitality committed both TPs to try and make that play work. The fact they don't get anything means they're just wasted summoner spells, and I like the idea for Vitality. Drop top wave, just play off of 2 lanes, see if you can make a pick, but they end up over-committing resources, and honestly, that's a win for SK.
And of course, SK, the player that's helped them pick up so many wins, is Exakick. He was temporarily a couple hundred gold ahead of Neon. He's got a significant CS lead because of how far back he's been pushed. But right now, Exakick is going to be one of the players to watch in these team fights. He's able to position and use that movement, speed, and mobility on the Zeri. He can burst down and take down the very squishy comp from Vitality.
I just think it's hilarious to see SK again kind of having these miracle holds. We saw it yesterday in their series, now against Vitality, who traditionally in the LEC have been one of the toughest teams to kill, if not the toughest team to just put in the dirt. And now SK are giving them a taste of their own medicine as they spread it around the map. 30 seconds till Dragon, though. That's where the big focus is. Irrelevant needs his TP up and available, and it's not quite there just yet. He wants that one so that he can put pressure top, but still create the numbers advantage they have an opportunity to create because that double TP was blown just a minute ago.
The thing that I absolutely love about the entirety of this game is it is playing to expectation. We anticipated high levels of action. We anticipated aggressive stances from both of these teams. And we also anticipated some slightly suboptimal decision-making.
I think the two things I didn't expect, though, was one, the Elise getting through, and two, the amount of presence towards topside, right? Like, the amount of this game that was defined by the fact you got this early pressure top that then bled in towards things like the Rift Herald, where Vitality were able to snowball those early leads. But now you can see when we get towards the later portion of the game that that team fighting that we talked about for SK is starting to come online. And I think partly, in fact, because Vitality haven't found a way to really push through their side lanes, play through this 1-3-1 as easily as they'd like, and SK have kind of fought them every step of the way to make sure they can't as easily close out this game.
Help test my memory here. I have this feeling that Vitality as a team have had several moments throughout the course of Winter where they're a little bit disconnected, a little bit disjointed in terms of their communication, in terms of their engages. Like that top inner turret fight, for example. 4 members go in and Perkz was a little bit further away. He wasn't able to be with the squad as they started. If those types of things happen this game against SK, it will be punished, and they cannot afford to not be on the same page together.
So I think the thing about Vitality has been they've been very good when it says turn, right? We want to go and fight, and then they're just able to hand stiff you essentially a lot of the time. And I think that's what Vitality are going to look at here as well, is saying, hey, we have the vision, can we get the angles of attack? The poke coming through from Neon as well. Neon, though, separated mid, topside is being pushed in by Irrelevant.
He's just got his teleport available right now. Tower secured. Neon is firing out those piercing arrows, and SK concede. They give up the dragon to hit that top tower, as well as some chip damage and the cannon barrage in the top inhibitor. So it all of a sudden feels like SK trying to unlock some side lane pressure. DOS forced to flash away from Perkz, and he will be a juicy, juicy target for the next objective fight. Baron is up, and both teams heading towards.
Yeah, I think the thing there was to try and use the double TP that you had available. Nearly have Sertuss just TP onto a minion topside to keep it alive, so you could have got that inhibitor turret. But now you're stuck in the same conundrum as SK. Vitality have control over the Baron area, and SK have to try and move in blind.
How does SK find the kill? They are somewhat separated for now, starting to group up at that red buff, and neither team able to find a straggler to find that kill. The river is completely littered with Vitality wards. SK will want to try clear that out, and we're now on Baron watch. Which team will be able to create an opportunity to start it? And frankly, which team is going to look for that pick and throw absolutely everything in it? Because that has been the theme of this game.
But this is where I think the game is actually going to slow down a hell of a lot, right? Because when you look at where Vitality are set up, they don't really want to push into SK's side of the map because, well, they're running into ultimates from Markoon, from Sertuss, like any sort of lockup along those lines. And when you look across at SK, they don't actually have to contest river. They can just throw a sapling over the wall. Cool, Baron's still there. We don't have to worry about it, and back away again. So it becomes this easy dance for SK as Bo will nearly get onto Markoon, but you can see SK don't really feel the need to push out because, well, you've got a 3-item Jax on the side lane who's nearly level 18. Let him just do the job on sides.
Yeah, and right now, it will be Perkz looking to match. Level 17 teleports available for both players. Steps forward, the rest of the members all in that top half of the map. Now trying to just push that vision line forward. Vitality have the opportunity to start Baron, to force a play, force SK towards you, and Dagda, that's exactly what they're doing.
Yeah, trying to get the TP out of from Irrelevant, I think, but already...
That's going so quick, that's going so incredibly quick. Nature's Grasp is thrown on inside the pit, it's stolen! Markoon manages to get the Baron! Now he's stuck with 4 members of Vitality and he concedes his life. But the Baron is secured by SK Gaming.
Perkz TP'd in, Irrelevant is still on the bot side. He's going to be able to get the tower. SK, they want to try and get as much as possible out of this play.
They're trying to push it. The tower is secured there by Irrelevant. Now he's trying to group up with the rest of his team. 3 members in the mid lane. While Photon as well as Bo were inside the base. Markoon steals the Baron.
I don't know why Vitality tried to hard commit to the play though. You didn't need to try and force the Baron. You wanted to try and get a TP from Irrelevant. So then it makes it a little bit easier for you to actually play off your vision in this top side. But they just pull the trigger. Perkz even TPing in early, and great steal from Markoon means that SK now have control of this game.
Okay, 35 minutes in, we're at 3 or 4 items. I want to talk about scaling and team compositions, but this was just Vitality fully committing to the Baron, burning it down so quickly. And in the burger flip, Markoon comes out on top.
And I mean, you know this is about to happen, right? Because we already said SK, they have a great position here to actually go for these. So fantastic steal from Markoon, and the rest of SK, they just need to run away. They don't, as long as you keep hold of these Baron buffs, you're in great shape. The fact Perkz even TPs in ahead of Irrelevant, expecting SK to try and fight that, means that you just get that bot lane tower for free as well. And now you have such a good position for SK to try and push in these waves to make sure that Vitality can't look for that dragon that's in 1 minute and 20.
And with that 1:20 until the next potential fight, do you think that the composition for SK is going to be enough to stand up to Vitality? Who do you favor in the 3-4 item space? As Photon will get that powder keg onto Sertuss and continue to step forward. Third one will not connect. So yeah, scaling, and where do you lean towards with the current itemization?
It definitely comes down to execution. I mean, Photon, absolutely massive, as you can see already with the items that he has. He's going to be in a good spot to be the big carry, but if it just comes down to raw DPS, it's going to be Exakick and Sertuss who are able to find those fights. So if Photon bursts out multiple members, fantastic, Vitality can follow up, but in a drawn-out fight, SK are favored.
I'm going to keep my eyes on those powder kegs, as it's SK starting a fight. Nature's Grasp is out. Markoon is head-butted away. Cannon Barrage trying to split up Exakick, who eats a gigantic barrel, and multiple members of Vitality forced away by Irrelevant. The zap from Exakick picks up a kill onto the support and the engage, followed up from the Cocoon. Sertuss is in a little bit of trouble, but the backup is there. They forced Perkz out. They forced Neon away, and Perkz dives into 4. The heal is gigantic, but it's Exakick that finds yet another kill, and Perkz is dropped for a triple to Exa and SK.
The extended fight goes to SK. Photon couldn't get in a position for the barrels, and SK find it. And they don't even care about the dragon. They're going for the end Quickshot.
2 members of Vitality alive. Neon and Photon standing against 5 members of SK. Have they done it once again? Have SK bounced back from a gigantic deficit in the early game? And it looks like it. The final pressure as Baron has now timed out.
There's no Baron. As you say, Photon can clear these waves and SK are too low. They have to find something here.
Well, the Nexus turret has now been taken out. Irrelevant is dropped as well. SK on the retreat, 20 seconds before Perkz is up, and he's got that teleport available. The piercing arrow will not find a target, and Sertuss does have the petrifying gaze. They get the inhibitor, they get the Nexus turret, and they're going to look for the dragon. And once again, we will reset and look for another fight.
I don't know if we get to reset here. SK don't have the damage to try and burst this down. Vitality are moving in. TP for Perkz, TP for Photon. They're already in mid lane. SK need to get out of here.
The dragon is secured. Perkz completes the teleport. Looking to chase. Cannon Barrage is dropped as well. But SK do it. They've been able to pick up the objectives, and still in a gold deficit, they are now in a position where they can take control of the Rift.
I mean, look, gold deficits are just SK's win condition apparently, because that's every game that they've managed to win. But for SK, they need to try and keep this up. This is where you need to get Irrelevant in towards top side. Use the rest of your squad to push in towards mid and try and keep Vitality at bay. The fact that you have that bot inhibitor down is fantastic, but as we've already seen, Vitality are perfectly happy to just clear waves with Perkz, clear waves with Photon and side lanes. So this isn't SK firmly putting a stranglehold on Vitality, but they are off to a good start.
I mean, the fact that the very next dragon secures the soul, and you have to be explicit about it. You have to address the fact that Vitality's team composition was always going to be challenging to execute. And we've seen so many games this winter go to those late game team fights, scaling, setting up those 5v5s. I mean, tank tops are more and more prevalent. And for Vitality, the fact that they could not find those cheeky engages, they could not successfully tower dive the inner turrets, is what has given SK the time to come back into the game. And you have to highlight Sertuss, 304 on that Cassio. DOS, 009 on the Lulu, doing so much work to set up and compete in the team fights.
Also, Exakick just full build now. He's going to be so incredibly strong when he gets into these team fights. The extra shield as well going to make it very hard to burst him out. For people like Photon, the change that we saw to Bloodthirster, they're going to have a big impact.
That's all of a sudden Vitality on the defensive. Bo gets jumped on with a Nature's Grasp, and Sertuss throws out the petrifying gaze, but it's dodged by so many. Cannon Barrage rattling across. SK, Exakick finds a kill onto Bo, but Neon is dropped as well. The zap goes out, it's gigantic! SK have done it! SK have got the numbers advantage. They've got the kills to their name. And despite the fact that Photon gets It's one back. It's SK with the gigantic advantage.
This needs to be the biggest barrel of Photon's life, but I just don't see an opportunity for him. Already you can see Markoon looking to zone away, making sure that he can't do any damage to this minion wave as it starts to move forward.
Starting to be hammered away. The next inhibitor with turret will be taken out. The super minions will need some time. Look at the minimap in that bottom lane. These last minions can be cleared out quickly by Photon if he can get the barrels down. But the first one is dropped. He manages to at least drop several of them. And underneath the turret, will now use that GA. Starts to resurrect. The next turret's dropped. SK have done it. SK will take down Vitality in game 1.
The first seed from the regular split will fall to SK in game number 1. Wasn't the best of starts for SK, but apparently that doesn't matter to them. Another win from a huge deficit for SK.
What a turnaround. What a game. And what an interesting start to the series. That Elise had so much influence and impact in the early game, but it did not manage to scale. It didn't manage to match what Maokai was doing once we got to those late game fights.
And I think that was kind of the composition that we saw coming through from Vitality, right? You're looking at a Sylas, you're looking at a GP. This is a comp that can work well if you can get control over side lanes, play smartly through your 1-3-1. But if you're just going to go and fight against SK every opportunity you get, they're going to be able to play through the stronger team fight once they cross that 3-atom threshold.
Now, the next question is, what do Vitality do as a reply? They will have side selection in the next game. I think compositionally is going to be a question that needs to be answered. But the next one as well is, how do they execute against SK? SK have shown a depth, a wealth of comfort and experience in these situations. They are going to have the momentum of both yesterday and this game.
But don't forget, Vitality chose blue side. This was Vitality's choice, right? So in theory, they thought, oh, well, we got everything we wanted. I mean, yes, you got to go for blind pick for Photon on the top side, but even that was a counter pick. So these are a lot of questions where Vitality kind of got everything they could have hoped for here, and you've actually got to go back to the drawing board completely. You need to start from scratch. You need something that can actually fight in these team fights against SK.
Both of these teams have got a slightly messy approach to their games. We've heard a lot of people behind the scenes favoring SK in terms of how they've played, how they're performing in scrims. But the thing is, so many of these fights could also have gone Vitality's way. So we will find out in just a moment as we head towards the desk. Let's listen to SK's voice comms from that final team fight.
But GP spot.
Look, we can fight the GP bot. We can fight here. Look on this Elise.
Sylas is kind of
Yeah, look on Elise. Look on Elise. I like this. 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 Elise.
Flash. I'm near me.
I'm far.
I'm one shot.
I can ult you.
Go on Elise. I need ult. We win. Alistar. We kill Varus. We win.
Aha, my polymorph. Go in.
Okay, I'm dead.
Go ahead.
Does JP have flash?
And welcome back to this side of the studio after SK Gaming take game 1 here as we just heard the voice come. And I see
that's too calm. That's the comms? That was the comms in the game when they come back. I'm dead.
No, but
Can we kill him?
I have
Yeah,
to
let's
respect
kill
the
Lulu.
approach of a team who was the underdog here and who shows up calm and collected, and specifically in a moment like this.
They're a team
I
of
love
very
it.
few words. Like, actually just no wasted comms whatsoever. Just who were jumping on and whatnot. And just, again, an insane situation where SK manifest yet another comeback
GB,
victory.
No.
What do we say when SK wins a game like this?
They can't keep getting away with it.
Thank
They
you.
can't keep getting away with it. And I said it all the time in the green room as well. Because, like, they
Jesse,
let him go. They were so much called down. How does that happen once again? And like bot lane as well, dying 2v2, like the game falling apart on the top side. I understand what they're going for, but Vitality, despite getting outscaled, had every single combination they needed from when they got the game going for them to continue steamrolling.
I mean, they had, and especially SK in their approach, they can't keep on getting away with this, but they're really good at capitalizing on other teams' mistakes here.
Right.
And the clock was playing with them, as you said, when you think of the scaling of this draft.
Yeah. Pick some scaling, and if the enemy team can't close, you're going to be very happy. Here, of course, just a wacky situation where the initial pick happens down onto Photon, and then Vitality walk into the 4v5, right? Like, you get the steal away, but I can't help but feel that Vitality could have decided to go for the steal and not all in the 4v5.
I think it's a difficult position for them. We've seen them slipper in the communication, especially in the late game. It's why every Vitality in group stage has looked as it looked right here. Look at this right here, okay? Like, that is 8K. That is 8K gold lead that you are close to 9K that we've thrown. That has to be one of the biggest throw we've seen this season.
And where did it start? Where did this throw start? Enter?
I mean,
like...
it started. The throw didn't necessarily start with them missing out on an early Drake, but I can't help but feel that
they
didn't prioritize the second Drake of the game at all. Allowed SK to get set up over it, and then when you have Maokai, very good at zoning away from objectives, I think we actually show that as well, because the fact of the matter is, when you give up that second Drake, when you're snowballing so hard, it doesn't allow you to play for Soul nearly as quickly.
Yeah, and what's really important here is the context of the circumstances of the game. Vitality in this moment in time is 4K gold ahead. There should not be a situation where you're setting up for second Drake where you're not the team that's first on that objective. So that's a huge slip up from Vitality.
And then where the throw is really cemented is the Baron fight that we just saw. Like, we just saw that replay, right? Because immediately after that happens, the fourth Drake of the game spawns, which SK, surprise, go on to secure for themselves. That puts the teams at 2-2 in overall Drakes. But if you remove the Drake that SK get, because Vitality are just asleep at the wheel, and then you don't have Photon getting picked and giving up that Baron, they're just getting Soul at a very fast time, and it makes it so much harder for the scaling elements to surpass the early game comp from Vitality.
Agreed.
Yeah, well, let's look at the draft maybe here to see how each team ended up here, because when you look at on the side of SK especially, you know that coming into the late game, you're going to have this Zeri, you're going to have this Cassio, but as you said, you especially have Markoon, who's here not to enable the team, but rather than disengage what Vitality is trying to throw at them.
Listen, in this game, already quite early, we were debating, oh, let's see what SK will do on blue side, because then maybe they can get the Elise, because Bo on the Elise was so crucial. Dagda even on the cast, mid-cast, was talking about, all right, let's start looking at the next game for the next draft, because that felt like that was where the first point had to come through. The early game that Vitality was able to get ahead of themselves, the early movement from Alistar as well with Kaiser on it was really solid.
Yeah, it absolutely was. But at the same time, like, I think we were sort of looking at this draft and we were a little shocked to see a lot of the early top lane focus, especially because, like, the last pick, Alistar, sort of comes in, right? And, like, you have the option when the Alistar gets locked in, maybe put another range support, buy it, play for the early priority, play for the Elise level 3 turret dive on bot lane. That is a proven formula here in the LEC so far, but they don't elect to go for that, instead playing towards the Gangplank lane to try and set up Photon.
I think it was really smart they banned the Nautilus on 2, especially when they have that Zeri, because if you do go to the late game, albeit they probably hope that they were a bit closer rather than how far behind they actually felt, they felt confident because there's barely any lockdown on the Zeri, and Alistar is really easy to play around when you play this champion. So not only did they have a good scaling aspect, it was also really difficult for Vitality's composition to lock Exakick down once we got to a late game, which once again brings it back to you had to finish that game when you had the big gold lead.
Yeah, no options against Zeri, but again, I think Vitality had the right start and the expected start maybe with the top lane focused action here. Markoon being able to track Bo also was beautifully done, but it was not enough, especially when you think that there was some mechanical mistakes on the side of SK, and this especially.
The problem is, first of all, Irrelevant is sitting here just getting autoed at range by Elise over and over. Like, he's trying to like maybe bait time, wait cooldowns on the E, because he does do a lot of damage, but of course Bo is able to dodge away from the counter-strike, which is huge.
Yeah, so my take initially is he's trying to play around the wave, he's trying to play around the cocoon because he can do that. The big mistake is when he actually gets stunned, because that's where you take too much. But this game was so interesting to watch because it felt like every single team realized that it had to be up towards the top lane.
Absolutely, and we saw this in this next play because both supports on the reset here immediately channel up towards top lane. Actually, DOS initially doesn't quite do that. You can see Bo setting up the lane gate on top side, Markoon also expecting something, so they called the supports up towards the top lane. Both teams have the exact same idea.
And it's just something we haven't seen in a long time because of the 2v2 meta we have in bot lane. We don't really see the early roam. So much is about finding that scaling and getting the plates in the early game. But in this game, both teams just acknowledged that I want to play topside, was Vitality getting aggressive, and then SK who's like, right, we need to bandage it.
Because whichever side jumps the gun first, I think, loses this 3v3 on the top side, because you're immediately closer to the enemy support, right? It had the Elise gone early, all of a sudden DOS is there and shutting it down, so it really did sort of snowball out of that, and should have fallen apart for SK, but the game was delayed long enough that they came online.
They're insane late game, whatever.
And I'm just wondering now, what do you expect on the side of Vitality? Because they had it, they had the right approach, but it came down on mechanical misplays here. And can SK close it out and move on to the best of 5 playoffs? We will see that after the break, as we will be right back for game 2. Stay tuned.
Plus, can you do something stupid?
So, nothing,
for the mic check?
Please play my game now.
Plus, can you do something stupid for the mic check?
Bro, I just spilled Red Bull on my pants.
Let's go! Really? He did something.
Flashes. Photon's looking for the parlay. The long-range engage from Markoon.
But look at the bot side. You're getting completely pushed away. We're going in as Kaiser.
Kaiser! Exakick is trying to survive, but Bo finds the 4th of the game.